Welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. I'm Dr. Kori Propst here with Dr. Joe Klemczewski. Topic of the day in the fitness entrepreneurship category, winning. What does that even mean? Joe, we work with clients every day. People come to us every day wanting something big, this big, important outcome in their lives and to shift into new ways of living. And what they're really saying to us is, I want to win.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, and your question is perfect. You know, what does that even mean? Because when a client comes on board or just in your own personal life, if somebody's listening or viewing this podcast and you have that goal, hey, I want to lose weight, or, hey, I want to make the, Division I college, basketball team that I'm trying to get a scholarship for, or, hey, what is that? And that would be my first point is you cannot be happy with an outcome or an expectation, or you're going to be very frustrated along the way if you don't know specifically what you're trying to win. If you never know where that finish line is and what direction you're supposed to be running, you will never feel like you accomplished something. So I know besides a client who might come to us, we also have Diet Doc clinicians who work with clients. And I think a lot of times this little miscommunication or a gap in the expectation versus the perceived outcome is really something we have to revisit over and over. What specifically does a win mean?
No, I completely agree with you. And I think what's difficult for a lot of us as clinicians and the clients who are moving towards that ultimate outcome is that it's an iterative process. So that finish line can move. As we go through our process, we may discover that the outcome that we wanted at the very beginning is no longer important to us. So the definition of winning changes.
And I just know as a coach and clinician myself, I often have to remind myself with every client individually, if I'm going through formal assessments and we're creating any kind of a game plan adjustment, have I really communicated with this client recently, just revisiting these exact goals? Are we on track? Are you happy with this process? What would you like to see different? As you just said, Kori, has anything changed or shifted in your mind? How can we work better together?
Well, and Joe, wouldn't you say that, part of this communication with our clients, and I engage in this even for myself personally when I'm working towards something, there are these questions of, okay, so here's the ultimate outcome, but what about this outcome today? And what about this outcome right now in this moment? Like we're recording this podcast, us having the conversation beforehand of what do we want the outcome to be? It could just be that you're focused on this and I'm focused on this, and we have these individual sort of intentions that we're engaged in. And then it could be like, what's the reach that the podcast gets after we put it out into the world? So it can get really intricate and complicated. And so our job as clinicians, I think, is to help our clients break that down into pieces to where they aren't a lot of times just focused on that thing way out there, that 6-month outcome, but right here, right now, what am I going to focus on? Otherwise it can feel really chaotic.
So you skipped right ahead to my second point, which is great. It's perfect segue because that is my middle goal of this podcast is to describe that to achieve those bigger goals, how can we back up and say what is important this week? And this is another thing I do as a coach all the time. If somebody's frustrated and maybe things aren't happening well this week, I'll say, day to day, that can fluctuate a lot. So let's look at how this week has gone. Let's look at these net weekly averages and goals. And maybe sometimes even a week doesn't show as much as the month. How did this month go compared to last month? Where are we now versus 2 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
And I've often, and I'm a spreadsheet kind of guy, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll often go through those numbers. And I remember emailing a client yesterday, and I said, look, you started 9 weeks ago, and even though the last couple of weeks we've done these kinds of things differently because of your travel and expectations had to adjust, we're still on track with our overall goal.
Right.
And so our goal for this week was to get through this travel,
Right.
enjoy it, have some fun, not regress,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're back on track. So those small steps are critical, not just to say, hey, let's create some small goals, but really assessing what you want out of this week and this month in the whole arc of the process.
And so how is each one of these small things moving us closer to that ultimate outcome? I can't remember who said this, Joe, but we're either winning or we're learning. And I love this because I think people look at winning in a very black and white way. If we're not winning, we're failing, we're losing.
You're taking my next point again. Damn you.
We are on this. So go.
No. I mean, I think that's a great phrase. I've never heard that one. And that is definitely one to hang on to.
Yeah, that's kind of in one of the files in my brain as one of those life schemas like we've talked about. I'm either winning or I'm learning, because in the process of moving towards the micro goal and then moving closer to the ultimate outcome, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to fall on our face and we're going to trip all over ourselves sometimes. And those are those beautiful opportunities, as much as they suck, to pause and be like, well, wait a second, like I haven't failed here. Like nothing has completely ended here. There's this space that I get to stand in and now like do some problem solving. Because if I were to take this giant leap all the way to the outcome, honestly, I'm not even going to know what to do with that. Because to maintain that takes a level of skill and capacity and strengths that I haven't even developed yet. The whole way there, that's why there's a way. That's why there is a process to learn how to do this space, right?
So here's a great story. One of our program owners who knows a client I'm working with who's had a lot of struggles, he saw this other client post something on social media, forwarded it to me, and just thought it was an interesting comment. And what's important about this, I'm trying to not say too much, but what was important is this client started out with us with a specific goal. And then there's been life issues and digging up some things to be worked on that wasn't anticipated. Yeah. And so, like you said, the goal has changed a bit. And even though this ultimate goal is still on the horizon, we've uncovered things that are more important. So I said to our program owner, this person's working really hard, and it may look like there's been a stall, but we're working on much more important things now that are going to make that ultimate goal happen. Yes. And even though that client didn't realize that at the time, and we didn't realize that at the time, we're doing much greater work to get that ultimate win, even though it's taking a little bit of a detour.
Well, it's like you can't fill a house that hasn't been built, right? You don't want to buy the furniture before the house is even built. Where are you going to put it? You have to have the scaffolding. You have to put down the foundation first. So you're uncovering cracks in the foundation. Or maybe the concrete hasn't even been poured yet for the foundation. Yeah.
So I was watching a random video. I binge watched it for the last 2 days, this series called the Kindness Diaries. Oh. If you've not seen the Kindness Diaries, it's mind-blowingly
I'm
good.
Writing that down. It sounds right up my alley.
So this guy was sitting in the office of the Minister of the Interior for India, and this public politician was making this point that was just so beautiful. I'm going to paraphrase it here, but he basically said, no man's religion is wrong, or no man's perspective is wrong. The world is a big enough place for everybody. And I'm paraphrasing. The only person who is wrong is the person who tells another man how to live his life. And this is a culture that is, has over 1 billion people, and you've got all kinds of people of different, creeds and stations in life and socioeconomic values. And for him to say, my job is to make sure everybody finds a home here and they feel comfortable. This is, I know, a bit eclectic for what we're talking about, but my point to that and bridging it to a win in your physical health is that there are some things that are just more important, and we can't lose sight of that. So what's a loss? A loss might be that you accomplished this goal that you had, but it cost you something far greater. So even when you think you're pursuing a win for body fat loss or body composition or some athletic goal, make sure you realize that a win means you kept that in perspective with the greater parts of your life, your family, your friends, your social expressions. You will lose every time if you're not winning at that long game.
There inherently in every goal that we pursue, there's going to be some level of sacrifice. And all of us need to do our due diligence in asking if it's worth those things, or even people or values, if it's worth sacrificing those things. I wrote an article, and we can put this in the show notes, a while ago called "Are Your Goals Your Own?" And this really resonated with a lot of people, because I think a lot of us tend to adopt or gravitate towards goals that we see other people jumping onto and adopting, and they take them on as their own. But, especially in those times when they're led to this place where they're like questioning why they're doing it. And while a lot of the things that we pursue suck sometimes, and they're really challenging and difficult, we still want to do them because of this just internal drive. It's that important to us. It's aligned with our values. Sometimes, though, we really need to dig in and take a look at that and ask, like, why am I pursuing this? Is this someone else's goal? Is this something that someone else said that I should do, and I just jumped on it because I was floundering around, didn't know what else to do? So we'll have Steve put that in the show notes, but that's a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that, Joe.
Yeah. So, guys, in terms of just summarizing all of this, because it may seem contradictory, some of these points, remember that having that very specific goal, continuing to revisit, why am I even doing this, which is kind of Kori's ending point, that has to be thought of through the whole process. You got to look for those little wins along the way. And I'm not talking about just creating tiny little goals, but look at exactly where you are winning, and then keep it in that context of your entire story arc. What you want your life to be. Is this even the right goal? Is a part of a bigger picture? Am I sacrificing too much in other areas? But winning doesn't always mean how fast you can cross the finish line. It's what finish line you're crossing and in what condition. So, Kori, I appreciate your help on this podcast. You seem to know everything I was going to say anyway. So that was pretty awesome.
Good team. Go team.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will catch you next time for more life mastery topics.
Thanks, guys.